Hi, and welcome to Simply Sincee. I'm Dr. Sincee Callahan, metaphysician and chancellor at ELU. And my co-hosts today are the Salinos, Judith Salino and Dominic Salino. And we're going to kind of pick up from where we left off last week. We talked about intent and the purpose of living and what's your intention for living. Why do you live the way you do, the purpose of the things that you do in life. Today, though, we want to kind of extend that a little bit, and we want to talk about creation. And there was something else that we want to bring in a little bit later, and I'm going to refer to Dominic Salino to introduce that topic. But right now, let's talk about creation and life and soul and living and everyday stuff that we talk about from a metaphysical perspective. ELU is a college of metaphysics, a college of original thinkers. So sometimes the things we say might sound different because they're original. They may be things that you haven't heard, or maybe you have heard it, but just didn't take time to stop and think about it. But what I want you to do is, when we're talking today, to just kind of listen, take some information in, and then think about it from your own original perspective. I want you to realize the importance of life, the importance of creation, the reason we exist in this life today, and also understand and accept that soul, that little life force that entered so that you can breathe, has a purpose, and it chose you perfectly for the experience of life that you have to have. So I want to just refer to my colleagues, Dominic and Judith, and get them to share some of their perspective about life and creation.
Go.
Life and creation. One thing that I'm striving to do is to find the beauty in all things. And I'm an engineer. That makes me very technical. And so I tend to look at things from a technical perspective rather than the beauty of it. Rather than seeing as it exists, I want to understand how it exists. What makes it work rather than just accepting the beauty of what it does when it works. So that's something that I'm striving to do, learning to do more and more. And as you do that, you also tend to find happiness in your life too, because that's something that I think really works together. Finding the beauty in things, appreciating things, the happiness of things, and that's all stuff that makes your life more complete. Your turn.
I forgot the questions.
Creation.
Creation. Well, life here in this lifetime, I'm always looking for some sort of adventure. I need some sort of routine, but I don't like to follow a set pattern of anything. I prefer to see what new adventures are out there. And I'm not like one of those crazy, I want to climb a tall building or climb a mountain or anything like that. I just like to see how other people live and just explore new ideas. That's just how I'm creative. I'm the creative side of the relationship. So that's kind of how I live my life. And then just finding joy in everything that I do. I do appreciate nature. I do like to go outside and just see how the trees move and see how the flowers grow and see the creatures that come and feed off of the flowers. And I mean, all that kind of stuff is just fun to watch. I've always been, I've always liked to do that. I appreciate it at a much greater level now because I understand a lot more about soul and how everything has soul. So it's really kind of interesting that's it.
I like what you said, Dom, about being technical. And then you have a wife that's creative, so that should make your relationship
Interesting.
Okay. Because here you have a couple that, you have one that's just kind of
Flighty.
Oh, that's your word. Okay. You have one that's just loves life by experiencing it in the moment. And then you have another who loves and appreciates life by the technicality of it. One of the things that I think that I'd like for our viewers to understand is we're talking about creation. Well, what is that really all about? And I know there's so many questions that people are asking. And, for me, it's like I so entered into this body and doom, it just got me working. So that's a system in my body, a nervous system, that just jump started everything and got my muscles moving and got my blood flowing and got me breathing. That's kind of one of the first things I really need to do. And we've got this brain that's programming all the stuff that's designed, this beautiful physical body that so many of us just look at the exterior of it. But the interior of the physical body is extremely impressive. And if we stop and, we talk about seeing the beauty in all things, especially yourself, identifying who you are. And there are systems, there's just like geometric systems in our body. We talk about sacred geometry and various things, but this body of ours on the inside is just amazing and unique. And the creator of all things designed it so perfectly that we can literally heal ourselves by, how often do you stop and think about the systems in your body? And when one is off, if you're not breathing properly, then it's going to throw another system off. You're going to, if you're having respiratory problems, you're probably going to end up with circulatory problems and muscular problems and nervous problems. Then your bones start aching and on and on and on. So what I want our viewers to understand, and this is a little metaphysical. Metaphysical to some people is kind of woo-woo. For me, it's an awesome science, and if you have an ache in one part of your body, identify the system that's aching. Where is that ache coming from? And realize that it's throwing all the balance of you off. And so many people, will do this and they'll say, I'm depressed, or I need a pill, or I need a this, or I need something. Mostly what you need is to be able to understand the creation of you, and be able to sit down and synchronize yourself and identify what's going on and kind of put some light into that and get it going. And so I kind of want to steer the conversation in that way because I know, Dom, you have an interest in sacred geometry. And I think the most sacred thing of all is our own personal being. How we walk, how we talk, the vibration and how it works with other people. All of the stuff that we talk about is quite simple, but it's been made to feel complicated. But what's complicated about identifying who you are? What's complicated about recognizing you have eyes that can see and you can touch, you could feel, you could smell? How about understanding all those little things about yourself? And when the smell is off, oh, I don't like that. The vibration's tilted some sort of way. Or if you're walking and the ground is not balanced, little things about your own personal self. I know for sure that if we pay more attention to ourselves, that we would stop picking on other people.
Oh, absolutely.
And we would be able to identify when somebody is a little off balance and be able to assist them when we learn to love ourselves.
And when you understand that, you begin to accept it. And when you accept it, you start to acknowledge it and notice it more. And there comes a point to where you just accept your unique self, and that's who you are. That's who I am, and that's who I choose to be, because it makes me happy, and I can see the beauty of it, and that's really a wonderful thing.
It is, but if it doesn't make you happy, it's probably because you haven't truly identified yourself.
Right.
And there's a lot of people out there that are just not happy with things about themselves, with their hair and their eyes and their fingers and their toes and things that are very important, gifts of life, and when you get to just accept, well, so what, I have freckles. So what, my hair doesn't stay in place. So what, I don't have a voice like somebody else. This is who I am, and learn to appreciate. You can't love anything, or you can't say that you love yourself if you don't appreciate the wholeness of you. I mean, every little piece of you, the mole, the pimple, whatever, Whatever is there, it has a reason. You may have a mole on your face to identify, to be able to get the attention of people in a particular way. So you take that mole and you embrace it, and you say, this is how I get to communicate with people, but you want to know what you're good at communicating, because we're all in this together to help it flow naturally and nice. We don't ever have to be mean and angry with anyone else, and if you are, you need to just come back to you. What's going on with me? You know, and once you understand and identify the systems in your body, people say there's 11, some says 14. I like to go with the most, and try to identify every little thing. So many people like to go on YouTube and go YouTube on what the systems are and how they work. That's a good way of identifying who you are and being able to appreciate creation. And once you identify with yourself and love you and all the parts to you and how when you think about it, this creator is a loving thing, right? Because it thought of everything. One system can heal the other, but one system can take the other one down. When you start to identify that, you can heal yourself. You can be quiet and tune up and do vibrations that we've talked about in other episodes. You can identify other people and what their situations might be and be able to help them. But the other part of that is you start identifying that, wait a minute, I'm on this beautiful planet. This planet Earth is amazing. It's amazing everywhere. Even in the worst, what you may consider the worst neighborhood, you probably could put a plant out there and change the whole vibration of it. There is so much beautiful life in this creation. We have beautiful sun that loves this planet. Out in our universe, we have a moon that kind of cools it down. We have all these beautiful lakes and oceans and the sea and everything, trees and forests and Amazons everywhere. We just don't stop and think how beautiful life really is. The little small things are the things that are the most beautiful. And that's one of the things that I wish we all would talk about more, the simple little things. The way someone, when you're with the person that is your life mate, do you notice the way they smile, how their little eyes twinkle when they're laughing, little things like that, the way they walk, the way they talk, the rhythm, the vibration, the geometry of the individual, And I think you were trying to say something, Judith. I love to talk a lot, especially about things that I'm so excited about life. I just every day think it's exciting. It's like a new life every day for me. And I know it's that way because I'm always identifying and trying to learn more about life all the time. Not just my own, but I appreciate everybody's life, everybody's journey, everybody's situation. We all have different things that we need to do. And if we can appreciate and accept that and give praise in a sense, not from a religious, holy, worldly perspective, but praise in the sense that I recognize you're good at that. I appreciate that about you. What can I learn? What can you teach me, about this great thing about you?
Yeah, I like what you said about seeing how people move, your life partner, whatever. I do that with plants and flowers and birds, and I'm fascinated by that. But I never really thought about just looking at people and watching how they move and appreciating their sacred geometry. That was cool. I liked hearing that. I'm going to do that moving forward because like I said, I do it with creatures all the time. I love to watch the movement of a butterfly or how birds, how different colored, because I love color. So how colored they are different, and it's just fascinating for me to watch all that. But I never really thought about looking at viewing a person's sacred geometry. I don't do that very often.
Yeah. And I don't think most people do.
Yeah.
But I think it would be good if we could just...
Hi, I'm Sharon Stenzel, and I am one of the counselors at ELU, Enterlight University. And today I just wanted to welcome you and kind of share the opportunity and the experience I had working with some of the courses at ELU. And it's an opportunity to get to know the essence of yourself, be an original thinker, and most importantly, be truthful. And one of the most exciting opportunities in my life that I've had to live and enjoy life every day.
Start. And we talk about the circles of life, our first circle, which is, our husbands and our children. And, when our kids are little, we pay attention to the things about them. One of the things I've learned in my experience with my children is now that they're grown up and they have their own children, there are little parts of them that I see from when they were little. And I can tell what's going on in their life because I paid attention to their movement when they were young. And so they don't really have to say words. I could just watch and see the vibration and the same little expressions that are on their face when they're happy, when they're sad. When your babies are sad, when you have these little young ones and they're sad, and they grow up and you see that expression, it breaks your heart even more. But you know how to hold that heart together and take a deep breath and say, I know what to do. It could be something simple like rubbing the back of their neck or whatever you did when they were a kid. And just hold their hand and let them know they're grounded. Little things like that. So I think it's important, for young parents with young souls and little bodies to pay attention to the little things, their rhythm, their sleep patterns. Don't try to force a pattern. Try to allow a pattern to emerge. You want to be able to build your family where you have routine. You want the babies to go to bed at a certain time. But if they're not sleeping and they're in the bed, pay attention to those little things like that. What's going on? Maybe just a little story or something, a laugh or a game before they go to bed or something to get them relaxed and to feel comfortable. Pay attention to those things. But in your spouse, I hear people a lot complain about the sleeping habits of each other. And, I joke about it, but, my husband snores. He's fine with it, but I don't see that as something I need to complain about. Early on, I realized, let me check his pattern out. And I start, literally moving my body like in rhythm to the snoring. And to this day, he'll laugh at me if he wakes up like, what do you do? I'm like, I'm dancing to the rhythm, because I love him so much. And I'm not going to be upset with him because he's snoring. I want to get to the bottom of why he's snoring. But while he's in the middle of it, I just try to enjoy the rhythm. And I know that sounds silly, but life can be silly. It's more fun when it's that way. It's the little things.
And Judy and I are different in so many ways.
Yeah.
She's very creative, and I'm not. She's an artist, and I'm not. And I've grown to appreciate that in her because she could sit down and take a piece of paper and create something in no time that's just beautiful, And she can talk about how she wants to rearrange a room, and I think, oh, that makes no sense. But once it's done, it's like, wow, this makes total sense. So I've learned to just really appreciate that in her.
Yeah.
We joke all the time. She has a 64 color box of crayons. I have a 5. So,
All you needed, the basic colors, yeah.
just the basics.
Just
That's
the
all
basics,
I need. But she likes to get into so many different things.
Yeah.
Just they don't relate. Well, I wouldn't say relate. It's not something that I can relate to, but it's something that I can understand and appreciate and love.
Yeah. And that's good for our viewers. We've got young people that just don't understand relationships. That's a whole nother topic, but it starts with identifying yourself, know. And I know, Judith, there are things that you can share with the audience about Dom that, that...
Yeah, he's structured. Since I'm not so structured, I always look to him to say, help me structure this because it's all over the place for me, He'll sit me down and he'll just go, okay, let's make a list. Let's do this or this. And that's the balance. It's like, okay, I can be flighty. And I know I use that word, but I feel flighty and it's fun. I think it's a cool word. But I can't organize myself sometimes. I cannot schedule myself. And so I look to him because he's so good at that. He just, well, here, let's just start with this.
Let's sit down and say, let's make a plan and let's work the plan.
Yeah, exactly. Because I know how to do it, but I just I rely on him to calm me back down. That's pretty much what it is, because I can get scattered pretty easily. So because I have just so many, quirky, so many thoughts, so many things, and it's like, okay, just sit it, write it down. Okay, so I like your technical abilities and just how you view life differently,
So being opposite is more an opportunity to complement each other.
Yeah,
I agree.
I agree too.
I agree with that. I do think that it's better for balance.
Sure.
It creates a nice whole circle.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many couples that just don't have the tools to make those things work, but it starts with understanding the creation of you and accepting the being that you have chosen to spend your life with, and recognizing the things that if there's something nagging you about the person, that's what you want to learn to love. And it won't nag you anymore. You have more harmony, and peace and love and rhythm. And, I always like to say, and I know if there's some couples that I've worked with, they'll tell you, whenever I would work with couples together, in my first visit, I would tell them, I want you to stand up and dance for me. I just wanted to see how they move together. And then I'd sit them down if they were stepping on each other's feet. And we talk about it until the rhythm improved. And I think that we don't pay attention to the simple little things. I feel that if you have a problem dancing, your balance is off, the rhythm is off, you're not moving in synchronicity, sit down and talk about it. Have a good talk, and then get up and dance again. Because there's so much passion in loving life, but it all begins with the creation. The creation of you is what we're talking about today. What the systems in the body, the way we move, our rhythm, our geometry, and how it synchronizes with the other beings in our life. And then you create principles, once you identify who you are. Well, identifying your principles help to create who you are. You identify the principles, and then the principles help you to live the life that you've chosen to live. And if you stay within that creation of that you have put together, then you have harmony in your life, and you appreciate it. You're not critical and judgmental and abusive, and you have just a joy for everything. And you know that you don't need to be in a place that disrupts you and makes your rhythm out of tune. So creation, when we talk about creation, we're not just talking about all the birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees, because a lot of people think about creation like that. Some people go far back, so many years ago, and think about evolution and other people's theories about how it all came about. But the moment that's the most important is the one you're in right now. That mirror in front of you is what that being is, the one you want to identify. You don't need to go read a book and look yourself up on YouTube or anything. You just need to look yourself square in the eyes, and then just start from there. Like, look at my eyes. How many people ever stop and just literally stare and look at their own eyes? Do it. You'll be impressed. You might have just the beautiful eyes you've been looking for everywhere else. And pay attention to your structure in your face and all the little things. Don't look to see, this part's like my mom and that part's like my dad. Who are you in that mirror? Identify that. If you don't like something, you can change it, but don't alter your body and disfigure it in any way, because over time that can be detrimental. I talk about, we like to joke about how we had this Phyllis Diller thing where she took off her hair and her lips and this and that. I want to clarify something, because someone did contact me that I talked with personally about this, and they thought about it, and they said, Sincee, well, we like to dress up, women like to look pretty, and I that's true. We like to look pretty for ourselves and the men in our lives, or the people that we're trying to show the best of ourselves to. A little eyeliner and makeup and all, it's beautiful, all that stuff. But to alter your body is the thing that we're talking about. To put substance and poison in your face and things like that. Over time, it can be disruptive. And if you're a young person and you're doing this to your body, it could affect the cells that are coming through you. Of course, they get to choose. But just the same, do you want to have those experiences? Create a beautiful life for yourself And you can start today. I don't care how old you are, how much struggle you think you've gone through. Take all that stuff and make it brilliant. Look at yourself and say, today, I'm going to recognize who I am, and I'm going to create this being that I know. I'm going to allow this being that I have tucked inside to emerge and just shine.
I know soul comes here for those experiences on occasion. I understand that. But it always saddened me when I would see somebody completely alter their face or their body and not just age gracefully, because there's things you can do naturally that can just keep you from getting too wrinkled if it bothers you to be too wrinkled or whatever, you know. And I think we spend so much time, like you said, early on. It's kind of scary when these young people who really don't know who they are changing their bodies up so quickly and so early on in life, and they don't know what they're going to look like later. You know, how is this going to affect you 30 years down the road? And, you know, I've always been grateful for the fact that, you know, I never wanted to change. I didn't even want to color my hair when I was little. I liked the natural color of my hair. And, you know, people would be blonde streaks and stuff like that. And, okay, that worked for them, but you should try this. No, that's not me.
I think that all comes with appreciating who you are.
Yeah. Yes, I think you're right. But anyway, I know that, like I said, I know souls come here for those experiences, but it just saddens me to watch people change who they are so young, you know, and I think it's great that we're having this opportunity to do these podcasts and help people understand that, you know, just appreciate who you are first. And then
I like that you brought up just soul itself, because when soul, before it enters into a physical body, it watches the life of the soul. It comes in and out of life with other souls that are in a cluster of it. And when it chooses that body, whatever height it might be, if it grows to be 5 feet or 50 feet, it already has seen its life path, or one of the paths that it likes to travel. It would like to travel to get its job done. And so when we come in and we start altering ourselves, I always say, if you allow soul to get his job done, you're going to have a great life. But if you do not, if you start altering and changing things based on other people's thoughts and ideas, and not recognize you have a layer of mental body that helps you to stay in your space and create for yourself. You know, when you allow other people to tell you what to do, you're not creating. And so it's kind of like your mental layer is just standing still. And soul cannot unfold the way it needs to and get its job done. It will just kind of sit in the knee or the toe or somewhere and just, you can do whatever you want, because what soul knows is, I'll have another opportunity in a different body. You know, and that's another subject that we can talk about later. You know, I would love to be able to just talk about the importance of identifying that part of the creation, that soul chooses the body that it is. There are never any mistakes. You can't say you believe in a creator, whichever creator, whatever name you want to give it, and then at the same time say it made a mistake. That just doesn't really, doesn't really make good sense even to the brain, you know, when you stop and think for yourself. You know, people try to justify everything they do that is wrong. But for the person who really understands and identifies with who they are, you know, they know what's right for the journey that they're on. And when you begin to identify yourself and see all the little pieces and the systems and all that, and recognize that you are existing because the Creator loves you. That's kind of how I say it. It's like, I want to share love with everybody because love is inside of me. It was the thing that jump-started this particular life that I am in. And when you get to realize that, you don't want to alter or change. It's not to say if you lose a leg, you're not going to try to have a prosthetic. I think that's a good thing. I'm so grateful for the people who can design things to make it easy for the journey, you know, that we have in life. But, you know, for those of us who are just trying to do silly things to our body for a moment in life that can create problems for the rest of your life, I just think that we need to get in tune with who we actually are and not try to change the natural beauty of us.
From a technical point of view, it's doing what you say you're going to do. If you say you're going to do something, you make sure you do it. You know, I've been a project manager for many years, and so with that, you have to be accountable because you have a schedule, you have a deadline, and you're expected to meet that, and you're graded on your accountability. And if you're not accountable, it makes it much more difficult to get further work. You know, so accountability is very important. You know, and it's just a matter of doing what you say you're going to do.
Yeah, I agree. I have this one principle that I live by. It is do what you say you're going to do, and if you can't do it, then say it. Because sometimes you just can't do it. Sometimes you will say, I can get a job done, and then you realize, I can't do this. But you have to be honest and true about what you can and cannot do. You know, if somebody gave me a project, and I started and I realized I can't get this done, I'll tell them, I can't do this.
Sure.
You know, and maybe I'll lose my job, but at least I'm truthful. I'm not going to lose it by not being honest and truthful. I'm going to be truthful, and that it is in somebody else's hands. Whenever you're truthful about anything, it always seems to work out, because that's usually the challenge for soul, you know, to be able to acknowledge what you can and cannot do and be okay with it and be all right accepting it if it's something someone else can do, you know. So what's your take on accountability?
I think that's the perfect take right there. I mean, I have to say I agree. You know, it's both what Dom said and what you said, Sincee, is just, you know, admit if you can't do it, you know, maybe think the next time, think about what it is you're saying you would do, learn more about it ahead of time so that you don't, you know, have to say, I can't do this. I've made that mistake a few times in my lifetime, just, you know, up to this point where I thought I was going to be able to do something. But sometimes, you know, things come in along that interfere, that you have to, you know, that are important, that you have to take a step back for. But just being truthful, I think, was an important thing that you said. You know, just be honest and say, you know, I was going to do this, it was going to be okay, but then this came up, or I didn't realize I wasn't able to do this. That whatever this
Or
case
I
is.
can't complete it at this time.
At this time, yeah.
I need more time. Whatever it is, just be okay with saying what it is. And whoever else is involved, at least they know. They could be upset about it for a minute, 15 minutes, that's it.
Yeah, I think there's been times in my career where, you know, where I've not been able to meet a schedule. And every time I've been open and upfront and truthful to the client about it and explained the reasons why, he was very understanding.
Yeah.
You know.
People appreciate the truth.
Yeah.
You know, things happen, especially in that industry or any kind of service industry. There's always something that could come up. You know, if you're depending on other people, if somebody else can't get something done, or if you have product that can't be delivered, there's always a whole bunch of things that can interfere. But I like to say I'm going to complete something by a particular time, but I won't beat myself up if I can't, because I realize it wasn't the right time. I'm going to go with this energy and this vibration and this flow, because when it happens, it's going to be the best result.
I do that with housework.
Yeah.
It's like, I realize that sometimes I don't have the energy to do certain things that I set a plan to. And it took a while for me to recognize that if I just set it aside and be honest with myself, I'm not going to get to that today. Yeah. The day that I get to it, I have so much more energy to do it. And that makes sense what you just said. You know, it wasn't the right vibration. You know, it's just the simple little things.
Maybe even just the time, the vibration and the way it works with the time of everything.
Yeah. So, because I used to beat myself up a lot about that kind of stuff.
I bet a lot of people do.
I bet, yeah.
A lot of people think that if I don't get this thing done by a certain time, there are some things that absolutely have to happen at a particular time. But the things that don't, you don't need to beat yourself up about it, and allow anybody else to beat you up about it. You know, it's interesting. I was talking with a couple earlier today, and they were sharing some experiences with their trip, and one of the housekeepers, and how they shared breakfast together, and I just think that was so nice. Yesterday, I had a conversation with another couple and they were being mean to the housekeeper. And so I just, I shared what I needed to share with them in a really tough way, because I don't think you should ever disrespect anything, and we talked about, how they needed to be accountable for their actions, because it is August. Is it almost? Is it August?
It's August.
It is August, and this couple has had 5 housekeepers this year. They fired each one. And so we had to talk about why they were firing them and others were quitting. And so it's interesting that what they had to admit to was that they weren't good at managing their own house, because they couldn't manage their own house. They couldn't tell somebody else how to manage it. And so we had to go back to just, what is it you really want from this person? And what can this person provide for you in this list of things that you're asking for? And some of the things that they were asking for were just ridiculous. And so taking the simple little accountable things and treating everybody with respect and loving the people that are helping you to take care of the things that you want taken care of is important. It goes to creating that whole environment, being accountable for the things that you put in your space, and if you can't do what you say you're going to do, tell everybody who's involved. I think that's what we just don't really do. And don't try to anticipate what the outcome's going to be. It's probably one of those things you just don't need to care about. You can only do what you can do, and everybody's going to do the same. If you are calm, if your vibration is truthful, everything will work out in most cases. If it's not working out with some of the people, you have to reevaluate the people that you're working with and decide, do you fit? You might not fit. May not be the right fit. So, anything else about accountability that you'd like to share with our viewers? Or
Nothing comes to mind for me.
Yeah.
I think the most important thing is to be truthful. Be very truthful, be very kind, and be very fair.
Right.
I think if you do those things,
Yeah, all 3 are required.
I-
You can't just do 2 of the 3. You got to do all 3.
yeah. And thank you so much for sitting in on another segment of Simply Sincee. Again, I am the Chancellor at ELU, and if you have any questions about SOU or anything that we mentioned today, accountability, creation, in the extreme ways, the ways that you don't get everyday talk about, please contact us